Okay, the time is 7 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting of the Millcreek Township Supervisors, meeting of Tuesday, July the 26th to order. We'll begin. We're privileged to have a young man in our audience here, Matthew Whitman, who is with the Boy Scout Troop 59 of Our Lady of Peace Church. He is working on his Eagle Scout, and we're going to have him come up and lead us with a Pledge of Allegiance. So Matthew, if you would come up front here. Please rise. Okay. Take it away.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Item number 3 is public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. There are none. Moving on to item number 4, approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes, one for June the 28th. We'll take that one first. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. And then the meeting of July the 12th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move approval of those minutes.
And do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 5, approval of the bills. Do you have any questions or comments about the bills? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move approval of the bills.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 6, which is our second quarter financial report. Mark, you want to take that away? You have a microphone with you? Or? Yes. Okay, have it there.
Okay, as promised, we're going to continue to do the financial report on a quarterly basis. And so now we've gotten through June and we've got the results, so we're going to go and look at the second quarter of 2016. Okay, first off, a comparison of the revenue year-to-date versus last year. The one thing about the township revenue is it comes in chunks, not nice and smooth and even like the budget pretends it's going to come in. We get most of the property taxes in the first half of the year. Things like income tax comes in pretty steadily throughout the year. That's why we see such a big amount of income coming from property taxes, because we've collected roughly 70% of them so far. The remainder will come in throughout the balance of the year, so that percentage will get smaller. And we're pretty much so on track of where we were last year, so that's not really that unusual. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule on the income tax. Other taxes are pretty much on track. All the rest of the revenues are pretty much so in line with the way revenue came in last year. In comparison to the budget, the budgets are roughly similar year over year. There really was not much of a difference in the budgets year over year. In terms of comparison to expenses, we're pretty much so on track in the same basic percentages as last year. And actually, total spending for the year has been $12,458,000 roughly, and last year was $11,980,000. So in terms of the actual dollars, we're in fairly close proximity. Included in that $12,557,000 number, 457 number, is the $750,000 that was granted to Asbury Woods, and that'll show up here later. Comparison of budget, actual expenses for public safeties are running a little bit behind. That's more than likely a function of overtime, and also it's a function of veteran experience for medical expenses. All the rest of the percentages are pretty much on track, and that'll come out in the table that shows the actual expenses compared to the budget. There is that table. Salaries are actually below budget by roughly $32,000. Health insurance is to the good, roughly $22,000. We've got a slight variance in the other benefits. Part of that is due to things like some employees have an allowance for work shoes. They're paid at the beginning of the year, but it's assumed that it's incurred gradually throughout the year. Legal, we're below budget on that this year so far, and our major equipment purchases are to the good. In terms of public safety, we're running roughly $500,000 or $400,000 to the good on salaries. Once again, that's largely a function of overtime. We really haven't added or detracted from the workforce. And the budget itself did not include a specific amount for wage increase. The police contract ended on December 31st of last year. There will be some sort of an award. We don't know if it's going to happen this year, next year. It's an arbitration, so when that comes, it comes. We're roughly $3,000 to the good on health insurance. The other benefits, slightly to the bad. The contribution to the fire departments. One of the things that the township requires is that the fire departments submit financial statements, and we do not give them a part of their LST allocation until they do so. The fire departments aren't really good about providing the financial information that's required, and until they provide it, I know they need the money and they claim poverty, but part of this is easy money. Just turn your financial statements in, and you'll get your allocation. So that's the reason why we get to the end of the year, they will have more than likely received all their allotment. In terms of the major equipment purchases, that is mostly a budget reclassification that needs to happen, because as we go into the highway budget, you can see we're almost to the good by the same amount. So really what we have is we've got the expenses occurring in the police department, but they're actually budgeted in the streets department. And so therefore, that's probably more a function of where the invoices were charged as opposed to where the budget was allowed. Because ordinarily, all the equipment purchases go through the streets department, even if they are for public safety. Salaries were to the good there. Health insurance, once again, other benefits slightly to the bad. Snow removal expense were ahead of budget, but then again, too, the winter has always got two ends to the budget, or to the actual expense cycle. We've already gone through last winter, and we got next winter to worry about. And so, although we've got salt stockpiled, we don't know what's going to happen come October, November, December. So that hopefully will end up still to the good, given the stockpiles we have. But then it becomes a function of would have salt prices risen or not. Sometimes to our advantage to buy it up cheaper. Parks and Rec, everything there is to the good. Their health insurance is only slightly to the good, but nonetheless, all their budgets on track. Selected other expenses, the Asbury Wood grant is going to have to be requiring a budget amendment to account for that. And but we have funded that, and it's reflected in our operating expenses for the year-to-date. And then streetlight expense is a big chunk of change. Those bills went out and are being paid. Some of the revenue is in there, but not all of it. And so we see that we're tracking pretty close to budget there as well. Questions? Yes.
Hi. I understood, maybe this is the wrong time, that, and I'm not negating it, I think it's wonderful, but I just found out that you got a second animal enforcement person by the name of Tobacco.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything on it, sorry. I don't know if this is the time to ask you what he'll be doing, the same as Tim, or something different?
Yeah, he is a part-time animal enforcement officer with the
Same as
police.
Tim's doing.
Same job, same duties as Tim, same powers, everything, yes. Yep. Thank you for asking, yes.
Has he been trained to be a animal enforcement, or,
He
you
would-
have to go to school for it, of course, I know that.
Yes, he already had that from when he worked at the city of Erie.
Oh, he worked?
Yeah, he was a police officer with the city of Erie,
I
yes.
thought so.
He was an animal handler there, so, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Item number 7, consideration of subdivision and land development plans. Grouse Hollow preliminary subdivision plan. Rick Morris.
At their meeting of July 5th, the Planning Commission recommended approval.
Okay. Any conditions or anything? Just
No, none.
approval as it's presented there. Okay. Do we have anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant for this? Is anybody here? Nope. Okay. They were made notice that they were to be here? Sure. Okay. Well, I think we'll...
They're not required.
They're not required, but okay. Okay. It'd be nice if they told us. Okay, is there anybody here to speak in regards to this matter? This would be Grouse Hollow subdivision. If you would, please come forward, state your name, and please sign it on the register there. I think somebody had their hand up over here. We'll take you in a second there, too. Okay. You can come over this way if you'd like.
My name is Christine Blackman, and I live on Court Avenue. Just a brief question of information. You know, when a subdivision, somebody puts out, the Baldwins put out the subdivision, of course, we're at the last meeting, and now we're at this one. Who goes over all this to make sure that all the requirements were made? Because the question was brought up at the last meeting about the water, and somebody stood here and said, well, we don't know anything about that, that's not our, you know. So who goes over this? Because you're about to vote on it, I think. And how do you, I mean, just for 4 lines doesn't say a whole lot about the subdivision, that they passed all the requirements. I'm not questioning, I'm asking, because that was brought up at the last meeting.
And Mr. Chairman, I was at the Planning Commission meeting, and yet there was some confusion from the audience as far as the difference between kind of a preliminary subdivision plan and, let's say, a final subdivision plan. I was wondering, Mr. Morris, if you'd be able to kind of clarify what this part of the process is, and what your office reviewed, and what the next step would be following this. I do believe there was a little confusion in the audience at the Planning Commission meeting.
First of all, what we have before the board this evening is a preliminary subdivision plan.
Okay.
And even if they approve it, that doesn't mean that they'll start excavating and building it. What it means is that this is a preliminary plan, and we've reviewed it in engineering to see if it's met our SALDO, our subdivision and land development ordinance.
Right.
And all of the items that we check for and are included in that have been satisfied.
Give examples.
So,
Yeah, like what exactly gets
What are you looking
approved
for?
at the preliminary level?
oh, okay. We're looking for the distance to other roads. You know, what are the center line distances? 200 feet, well, they're 200 feet, so they satisfy that requirement. And on it goes. What's the right-of-way width? What are the lots, depth, frontage, area, all these types of things that we look at. Where would the stormwater management facility be? Do they have sufficient area for everything else that they need, and they do. So there's a long checklist that we go through in accordance with the subdivision land development ordinance.
Now,
So
what
it
about
has met all those.
what about the stormwater, Rick?
Well,
as far as
stormwater, we
reviewing
don't
it?
have a whole lot of detail on
That
yet.
was the
It's a
last one,
preliminary
too.
plan. We'll see that when the final plans come before engineering, planning commission, and then the board. And as of now, we see an area in the southwest corner of the property that has been designated for a stormwater management facility. But exactly what that entails, we have some idea, but we really don't have the details yet. Once they do become available, Hill Engineering will review them, and that's a
Are you saying
third
building
party.
when you're talking about stormwater management? Are you talking about some kind of building or something?
No. What we're referring to is the collection of the stormwater, okay, through storm sewers, catch basins, commonly referred to as inlets, and then it's conveyed to an above-ground pond in this case. It could be below ground, it can be wet pond, a dry pond, there's a number of ways it can be done, or you can have infiltration. The soils in this area don't promote infiltration because they're clay soils, so they have to store the water and release it gradually. The cheapest way is an above-ground pond, and that's what they've proposed.
Just like on 38th Street, almost by Asbury, that one subdivision
Yes.
has a pond of water.
Hidden
and
Springs,
stuff.
correct. Now, that has water in it all the time, so that's a flood retention basin. Flood detention basin is dry between rain events. D for dry is the way I remember it. So there are a number of different ways to satisfy stormwater management, and it's often misunderstood. Basically, we're trying to reduce the amount of runoff.
Those are good answers. Good questions. One more
Thank you.
question. It was brought up about PennDOT up until now, and correct me if I'm wrong, has not allowed the right-of-way in front of that project. I think that was brought up at the last meeting, wasn't it? Yeah. So what's the status of that? The PennDOT, from what I understood, it was brought up, I think it was brought up the last meeting, you're all agreeing with me, about PennDOT allowing that,
Well,
the road coming out.
PennDOT reviews an application for a highway occupancy permit,
Right.
and that commonly referred to as an HOP. And in this instance, they'd be mainly looking at sight distances, so that if a vehicle is pulling out, do they have sufficient sight distance to determine whether or not it's safe to enter Gore Road? Well, in this case, we've been told, but we haven't seen anything yet, that PennDOT has looked favorably upon it, and it meets all of their requirements for the HOP. Okay?
Rick, they won't be able to even submit their final plan until, number one, they have their HOP, and number two, they have approvals from Hill Engineering?
That is correct. Well, not so much Hill Engineering. The stormwater management approval can be concurrent with other processes. But before this land development plan can proceed and the Mylar be signed, we have to have an approval from Hill.
This water thing, when you're talking about water during water time, sometimes it's dry, wouldn't that be harbor water
Okay.
like that, mosquitoes and all that, if water
Okay.
sitting by people's houses?
Okay,
Sometimes it does. There are environmental regulations that they have to follow also. Okay? It used to be that we simply looked at storing the water and getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Now we look at under a 2-year storm where we have to either hold it for a sufficient amount of hours or
Okay.
we have to make sure that it infiltrates. But it's very difficult to infiltrate anything in clay.
Right.
It's out of the hole, so to
Okay.
speak.
Right. Well, that's why a lot of developers are going to the flood retention basins that hold the
Okay.
water. So it gives a little bit of an opportunity to infiltrate, to evaporate, and it holds more of the water when you get the small storms
okay.
or the beginning of a large storm.
I'm not sure where this is going to be, a house, by a house or something.
Okay, yes, okay. I'm going to need to, is there anything else specific to this project itself?
Well, that was pretty specific to that project.
Okay, I'm
If I
talking
had
about
a
this
puddle of
particular,
A bunch of water next to my
Okay.
house and there's mosquitoes, that would concern me.
okay, yeah, that is something we
Or
are,
my cousin.
okay,
I'm not
okay,
sure, but, yeah.
okay. Ma'am, if you would, please identify yourself for the record, and please sign the, there's a paper up there, isn't there?
Yes, okay,
Okay,
thank
if you
you.
would, thank you. Thank
Lori
you.
Bednar, 1209 Winesap Drive.
Okay,
It's my mother, Ann Bednar, who lives at 1250 Arden Road.
Okay.
Which is that dead end, and it's her property that abuts this land.
Yeah.
And I think when the surveyors or engineers were out, they spoke to her because she was just out in the yard, and they had indicated that the turnaround that the subdivision, or the township had put in several years ago, they've learned that it's part of that is situated on this property that's being developed. And we're just wondering, will we be notified, or will she be notified if that turnaround is going to be relocated? Or will the residents be notified when the final plan is ready to be presented? So I guess it's two questions.
okay.
Rick, has Sanford indicated if there's a problem with that, or if?
No, we recognized it early on.
Yeah,
We have surveyed it, and yes, we've had our crews speaking with some of the residents because they inquired as to what our crew was doing. And our survey crew was mainly looking for points to determine exactly where the property line was, where our right-of-way lines were, and so on. We have insufficient right-of-way for what we would like to do, and that is to provide a turnaround of a 50-foot radius. Okay, so that means we'd need 100 feet. So it's a lot easier for a plow truck to turn around when it has the sufficient radius.
Rick, could I interrupt 1 second? Are we talking about Arden Road?
Yes,
Yeah.
It says on this map that it's private.
it is not.
Okay, so this map
It
is wrong.
used to
that we're
be,
looking
but this map is incorrect.
at? Okay, so it's
Yeah,
a,
it's public right-of-way, and it's something that we will be knocking on your doors, sending letters, we'll be talking to you about. We're trying to determine exactly what we need. We just found out exactly where the property lines are, so we're in the process of doing that, and we will be contacting the property owners.
Okay, and via mail. So she should have
Sure.
sent the letter?
Sure.
yeah.
Thank you.
Rick, I guess the question I was asking is, I know this issue had come up before, I think at the Planning Commission meeting. Evan, you mentioned there might be a precedent here that if that turnaround across the property line for a certain length of time, it might be grandfathered in and not actually have to make an improvement to it?
I don't believe that that's the case. I mean, I'm a little lost on it used to be private, now it's not. I'm not really familiar with that one. But the whole point of the turn-on is to allow maintenance trucks to turn around until the street is connected, if it is ever extended somewhere else. If it's not going to be, it would be there forever, as long as it's a public street and people are trying to maintain it.
Correct. It's more or less a dead end here, as proposed. Now, that's one thing that the board could determine. No, we want to see Arden connect with Grouse Hollow Drive. So that would be a change from what has been presented.
was there some research done or something, Rick, that we came up with the fact that this is a public street?
Yes.
Okay, what, you wouldn't happen to know when that happened?
I don't have the details. I know it's been over 20 years,
Oh,
but I don't know exactly when.
There's no way 21 years from
okay.
now. Someone came 15 years ago.
And again, if there was any discussion of putting Arden through, that would be a major concern for many of the residents, not only for our street, but Amy, because of these shortcuts running from Route 8 to get down the door, bypassing that intersection at East Road.
Something like that would be a major change to the, yeah, so
Yeah,
that
that
would,
would, yeah.
they would most likely have to go back to the drawing board on that one.
Okay. Any other comments or questions regarding this subdivision? Okay, how about the board? Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't see your hand back there. If you would, please give your name and write it down there too on the sheet of paper. Thank you.
Marty Manska, 4816 Michelle Court.
Okay.
Question, I guess, would be, when or how do we get notified of, when is the next meeting regarding this subdivision?
I guess that's up to the developer, isn't it?
Correct. We don't know, but yes, the properties within 400 feet will be notified.
Okay.
Okay, and once again, it'll go before the Planning Commission first, before it goes through the Board of Supervisors. Now, you can see that the preliminary plan shows phase 1 at the southern end of the development and then phase 2 at the northern end. So I would expect to see something from phase 1, which is East Gore North, sometime within the next year or so. But there really is not any definitive date as to when the developer must proceed.
If you are not within the 400 feet, I would suggest you either give engineering a call tomorrow or else maybe leave your name and address with Rick to make sure that you get notified.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this proposed subdivision? Okay.
Rick, I've got a quick question for you. The access point, I noticed the road kind of jogs a little bit. We've had issues brought to my attention with those kind of curves causing maybe sight distance problems in some neighborhoods. Do you have any concerns about how the road's designed to access East Gore?
Yes, we've discussed that. You're exactly right. We have had concerns with existing streets in Millcreek Township. The only thing that we can figure out, even though we haven't spoken to Mike Sanford, is that they needed the required 200 feet in the center line distance between Cider Mill and Grouse Hollow. So by putting that little kink at the end, that provided an additional distance for the 200 feet, and it kept the lot lines roughly equivalent from the east side and the west side. You understand what I mean?
Oh, I understand what you mean.
Okay, I have a question, Rick. You spoke of the turnaround that was developed at the end of Arden Road, where Lot 12 would be.
Yes.
Now, a preliminary plan constitutes an approval of the approximate configuration of the streets and everything. And if I'm not mistaken, this preliminary plan sort of doesn't have a turnaround there. Don't you think, if you want a turnaround, that approval should be conditioned on there being the appropriate turnaround there? And that may affect Lot 12, but, you know, I don't know that that's Millcreek's problem.
Very true. Unfortunately, when that was taken over, we weren't so careful as to exactly whose property a turnaround was placed on. Nowadays, we have easements or we purchase additional right-of-way. There could be more or less like a hammerhead to turn around in, or it's best when the snow is flying and there are big trucks that we plow with, that they do have a larger radius to turn around in. So that's why I say as we gather additional information, and we lately have the survey information in, we'll determine exactly what streets needs. We have discussed it with streets, and they have an idea. Next, we need to go to the site and try to determine with the survey crew exactly what the boundaries of those limits may be.
Well, Rick, with that in mind, would you suggest we table this issue until we've made those determinations?
Well, I don't see that we're working on any property of the proposed development. I see it that we need to speak with the property owners north and south at the end. Now, could we work on something in Lot 12? Possibly, and especially since there is a stream right there.
Well, I guess
we
Rick,
don't have
what I'm
enough
getting at is that there's an existing turnaround to some extent, right?
Correct. But it's on the, well, it'd be the west side of the property line. It's onto the Baldwin
Right,
property.
but I guess what I'm getting at is, I think maybe Evan's getting at this. It probably makes more sense to work with the developer to leave it as is rather than approach other neighbors to acquire more property from them to build a turnaround, doesn't it?
Especially since you have an open channel on Lot 12, because that somewhat provides a buffer, a barrier between Lot 12, where the home would be, and the backyard. When this first came in, we did not know exactly where the property line was.
Right.
It took a little while to survey and find our points.
Evan, would you suggest we table this and perhaps actually show the turnaround on the drawing before we approve it?
Well, you know, if you give a preliminary approval and you don't have a turnaround, you're going to come with your hat in hand later on asking somebody to screw up a lot that he thought was okay to do a turnaround. And if the turnaround's there now, the turnaround's there now, Rick. Now, if
It
it's
is.
sitting on that land,
It is.
it's been sitting on that land for a long time,
Yes.
if you catch my drift. So, I mean, I think maybe it would help if your department would get the details so you figured out what you need and the extent, if any, to which that affects Lot 12 before they approve something and then you find out now you've got to go out and, condemn it.
Well, like I said, we've been working on it. It was not easy to determine with all the foliage out there.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, the applicant isn't present to have a discussion with. Chairman, I'd move to table this issue.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote on it?
I vote yes.
Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I also vote yes to table this action.
So it really won't come back off the table then until we get this worked out with the developer?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, ma'am, ma'am, we'll be sending action
We
notice.
can. We can notify the residents and
Just want to make sure, because otherwise it'll be on our agenda at the next meeting if we tabled it.
Right. Yeah, that more or less rules it out to be on the agenda next meeting. It would be not the 9th, but it'd be 2 weeks after that.
23rd.
23rd.
23rd of August.
So, yes.
Yeah. Let's make sure that all the neighbors are notified about that then. Okay. Nothing else on that? Moving on to our next item. Item number 8, a request for commercial drive access for 2400 Yoder Drive. Rick Morris.
This is a request by Accudyne Products. They're requesting a 40-foot wide driveway near their north property line on Yoder Drive. I've been to the site, I've seen it. I think it's a good location. They have another access point. They're trying to get the trucks out of their main entrance, which is south of the proposed driveway. So I'd recommend approval of the proposed driveway.
Anybody have a questions?
No, I'll move approval.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
Rick, for issues like this, we don't notify neighbors or anything like that, or adjacent properties, or?
Not that I know of. This is usually a zoning issue, and engineering isn't that involved. When it comes to a commercial driveway, the Board of Supervisors has to approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. I do have a question before we take a vote on this. Are they going to be increasing the truck traffic on Yoder Drive? Do you know, or is this just something to take care of a problem that they had prior?
As I understand it, it's to separate the trucks from their other driveway and to improve and
Okay.
safely help
That's
the
their main
circulation
entrance.
within their own parking
Okay,
lot.
okay, that's what it is.
So they've estimated the truck volume at 20 trucks,
So no different than what they have then right now, is that correct?
as I understand it, yes.
Okay, okay, that's all I needed to know. Okay, Brian, you made the motion. How do you
Yes.
vote?
Yes.
John Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Let's see here. Item number 9, Resolution 2016 R17. It's a resolution to designate and/or confirm designation of persons authorized to initiate actions to enforce township ordinances exclusive of traffic citations and other matters to be enforced by either the Millcreek Police Department or to offer testimony as custodians of records and/or responsible officials. This is a continuation of, or an amendment to the prior resolution. We're adding new fire code official Caleb Dixon as an enforcement officer and authorized to issue citations as needed. Am I correct on that, Mr. Adair?
Yes.
Okay, that's what the gist of that is all about. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
I'll move approval of Resolution 2016 R-17.
And do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 10. That would be appointment of a new township solicitor. Mr. Morgan?
Mr. Chairman, as the board's aware, Mr. Adair will be retiring this summer. To fill the position of solicitor, the board decided to put out a request for proposals for local law firms. We did receive 4 proposals. 3 were complete. Those proposals were from McDonald Illig, the Quinn firm, and the firm of Starrett, Mott, Bresky, and Shimmick. The board did narrow that down to 2 top candidates, McDonald Illig and Quinn. We did have an executive session this past Monday to interview those candidates, and I think tonight we'll be voting to appoint our new solicitor.
Okay.
I'll move the appointment of the McDonald, Illig, Jones, and Britton firm as the township's new solicitor.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Effective August 1st.
Oh, yeah, that's with a proviso.
Yes.
Effective August 1st. Mr. Morgan voted yes, and I also vote yes on that. Okay, thank you. Item number 11, proposal for rehabilitation of Stonebridge Drive culvert. Rick Morris, back to you.
It's come to our attention that we have a very serious problem in the Stonebridge Drive culvert, and this is in the Whispering Woods subdivision that conveys traffic over Zon Run. Bridge engineer Mark Corey and I looked at it last week, and he's submitted a proposal dated July 15th in the amount of $9,000 to provide engineering services for the rehabilitation of the Stonebridge Drive culvert. Both Mark and I believe that this work must be done yet this year, so we're fast tracking it. But exactly what must be done to the structure and the stream bottom is unknown at this time. We know that it's 16 feet wide, and the walls supporting the 185-foot-long culvert are being scoured, undermined, and they need to be rehabilitated very quickly.
Okay.
This structure supports a corrugated metal pipe arch with a continuous concrete wall footing that is scoured. So Mark is working to set up meetings with DEP, DCNR, Fish and Boat, and everyone else until we meet out there and we determine exactly what we can do, what we can't do. We don't have a solution yet. But I would recommend approval of the $9,000 proposal to hire Mark Corey as our bridge engineer on this project.
Okay, so what you're requesting is just for the hiring of engineering services for this project?
That's correct.
It's not the construction of it,
It's
just
not the
engineering?
design, right.
Okay. Any questions from the board on that proposal?
I'll move approval.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 12, West 26th Street culvert replacement. Rick Morris. This involves change orders number 2 and 3.
Change orders number 2 and 3 on the contract of McClellan Construction are for reducing the pavement replacement thickness and adding erosion protection at the inlet of the replaced culvert at West 26th Street in Gerlachs. The specified 8.5-inch thick asphalt patch in Gerlachs asphalt parking lot was reduced to 6.5 inches once limits of the repair were agreed upon with the owner. The $6,000 in savings was then applied to additional inlet scour protection. Protection was provided previously, however, it's evident that more is needed to preserve the embankments behind the head wall and wing walls. Without it, the stability of the walls would be lost. So summarizing, change order number 2 is a $6,000 increase for the inlet erosion protection, while change order number 3 is a $6,000 deduct for reduced asphalt restoration. Therefore, the adjusted contract price remains the same at $130,356, and I recommend approval of change orders number 2 and number 3.
Okay. Any questions from the board on that? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to...
I'll move approval.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 13, West 38th Street Drainage Improvement Project. Change orders 1, 2, 3, and 4. Rick Morris.
Unfortunately, as hard as we try, we can never plan for everything that we find as we excavate. And there are certain things that come to light as we work on a project. I'll try to make this as brief as I can, but they are somewhat complex. Change order number 1 is in the amount of $6,220.88, and it consists of 3 items: an 8-inch water line, a 12-inch storm sewer, and a 48-inch pipe instead of using an existing 36-inch. This, by the way, is the project that I refer to as the McDowell West Channel because it's conveying waters from 38th and Vista along the west side of the McDowell High School property to a flood detention basin that is north of MIHS. The existing 8-inch water line to the schools was in conflict with the proposed swale. Therefore, the water line had to be lowered and extended so we could get a valve in away from the swale. The cost was $3,007.88. Knowing that the water line conflicts would be encountered, a total of $33,000 was included in the contract for these conflicts. While constructing a 30-inch storm sewer on Bonneview Drive, it was determined that a 12-inch corrugated metal pipe that crosses Bonneview on the south side of Fiedler was completely rusted through. Well, we couldn't leave it. We had to replace it. So the township supplied the 12-inch HDPE replacement pipe, and McClellan furnished the stone and installed the 40 feet of pipe for $825. The third and final portion of change order number 1 is in order to accommodate additional flow, it was decided to replace the existing 36-inch HDPE pipe with 48-inch at the north end of the swale. Contractor simply changed the only increased material cost of the 48-inch pipe as compared to a 30-inch pipe that was previously bid, so it was a bid item. So the contractor agreed to excavate and provide stone for the same width. The only price difference was the cost of the 48-inch pipe over the 36-inch pipe, which led to a price increase of $2,388. Any questions with change order number 1? That's the toughest one. The other 3 are easier. Change order number 2 is for a trash rack at the inlet of the 48-inch pipe that was included in change order number 1. Its cost is $1,540, and it was inadvertently omitted from the contract.
Well, Rick, I don't know if it was inadvertent so much as once you found out you were going to need a 48-inch pipe instead of a 30-inch pipe, you have a much more likely scenario where somebody could crawl up in that pipe.
True, too. And I want to add, it isn't always a good thing to provide a trash rack in front of an open pipe, because a pipe that large, it takes quite a mess of junk to clog it. Otherwise, you would like to see it flow through. A trash rack is going to provide more of a possibility of flooding when it's not cleaned. And anymore, we get storm after storm, and sometimes, we're not able to get out as quickly as we would like to. Change order number 3 involves 16 lineal feet of sidewalk replacement that was required by upsizing the 36-inch pipe to a 48-inch pipe. It's an 8-foot wide walk that measures 6 inches thick, and it increased the contract by $1,379.34. Change order number 4 and last is in the amount of $1,100, and that was required to accommodate the south ditch flow of West 38th Street into the 60-inch manhole located at 38th and Vista Drive. So the total change orders 1, 2, 3, and 4 is $10,240.22. This amount increases the original contract price of McClellan Construction's original bid of $345,900. $892 to $356,132.22. However, since the $33,000 was included in the contract for water line relocations, the expected final adjusted contract price will be substantially below the original contract price. So I recommend approval of change orders number 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the contract of McClellan Construction.
Okay. Any questions among the board?
Rick, just so I'm clear, the change order is actually going to reduce the overall cost of the project?
I'm sorry?
You said that the change order is going to actually reduce the overall cost of the project?
No, overall, they'll increase the original price, but we don't have the final deduct for all the other items, which includes $33 for water line relocation. And in this one, the water line relocation was only $3,000. So we know that we're $30,000 to the good. Here we're spending an additional $7,000. So we expect to see the final contract price below the awarded amount.
They just haven't deducted the amount that was expected to be spent for water line relocation.
Correct. And there were 4 manholes that we didn't have to use. So we'll have a
Right.
deduct for that.
So it'll be more of a deduct.
So it isn't always the change orders bring an addition to a contract price.
Right.
Sometimes there are deductions. In this case, it's to the good.
Right. So it could all come out in the wash, no pun intended.
And then some.
Yeah.
And it will be less, yes.
Okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
I'll move approval of change orders 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Item number 14, sidewalk accessibility alterations project, phase number 4. And there's a change order on that one, too.
Yes,
Rick.
another one. The original contract was awarded to Empire Landscaping Snow and Construction Services for the sidewalk accessibility alterations project, phase number 4. That occurred in May, and the contract amount was $150,112. There were 2 locations where, because of the topography and existing sidewalk locations, curbing had to be installed to prohibit handicapped pedestrians from going off the edge of the sidewalk. The payment of this change order will be covered under the current CDBG Community Development Block Grant funding for the project. So in summarizing, we have an original contract amount of $150,112. Change order number 1 amounts to $1,375, which brings the adjusted contract amount to $151,487 even. And we recommend approval of this change order.
Rick, do we need to actually amend our CDBG allocation, or is this within the total we allocated that we reported to?
As I understand it, we have a little buffer in there, so it's within the amount that we have allocated.
Okay. I'll move approval.
I think the bids, John, came in
Very low.
significantly less than what we thought they were going to.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 15, financial security release requests. Rick Morris, back to you.
This is for Westridge Medical Partners, the development on Westridge Road. Financial security is held by Erie Bank, number 1444, in the amount of $284,031. The developer has requested a release, but we believe it should be denied because the required buffer plantings do not yet meet the requirements. There was an amount set aside for that of $30,400. So we're recommending no release, but a reduction of $253,631 to $30,400.
So just holding the security for the planting strip.
Correct.
The buffer strip.
And that is above the 10%.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I'll move that the security be reduced to $30,400.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
The second one involves 2215 Powell Avenue, and this financial security is held by First National Bank, check number 1082 in the amount of $6,385.50. All of the public improvements have been satisfactorily completed, and we recommend release of the financial security in the amount of $6,385.50.
Okay, any questions among the board?
I'll move approval.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 16, June building construction report. This comes from our zoning department. We have 2 new single-family dwellings, permits issued for that in the month of June. Construction value total of $399,000 for that. There were some additions and remodels for a residential construction value of $545,275. Under the commercial, we're kind of light on that this time. Non-residential structures, $114,000, and another for additions of $63,000. So for a grand total in the month of June, total construction value was $723,107, which is really kind of light, it seems like, for the month of June. These are available. They'll be available online here, I think, by the end of the week. Paper copies are available in our zoning department. Just go and ask for one. Communications, item number 17. Mark, we'll start with you.
Okay. Pursuant to the refinancing of the sewer authority bonds, we had to be rated by a rating agency. In this case it happened to be Standard & Poor's, and we received a letter dated July 15th, 2016 with regard to that matter. Pursuant to your request for an S&P Global Ratings rating on the above reference obligations, S&P Global Ratings has assigned a rating of AA-. S&P Global Ratings reviews the outlook for this rating as stable. A copy of the rationale supporting the rating is enclosed. Now, I'm not going to read the whole letter because it's about 10 pages long, but just to pick up some of the highlights. The AA rating reflects, in our opinion, Millcreek's general creditworthiness, specifically adequate economy with projected per capita affected buying income at 115% of the national average and market value per capita of $71,907. Adequate management with standard financial policies and practices under our financial management assessment methodology. Strong budgetary performance with operating surpluses in the general fund and the total government fund level in fiscal 2015. Very strong budgetary flexibility with an available fund balance in fiscal 2015 at 23% of operating expenditures. Very strong liquidity with government available cash at 50.2% of total government fund expenditures and 361.2 times governmental debt service. Very strong debt and contingent liability position with debt service carrying charges at less than 1% of expenditures and net direct debt at less, that is 6.4% of total government fund revenue, as well as low overall net debt at least less than 3% of market value and rapid amortization with 70.5% of the debt scheduled to be retired in 10 years, but exposure to speculative contingent liabilities and large pension and other post-employment benefit obligations, and a strong institutional framework score. And then you go and explain what each of these ratings, how they're derived. Okay. But overall, what it says is that the management by the supervisors of the township's finances has been above average.
So as long as we keep our heads on the right direction, we'll be doing good then.
Right.
What you're saying?
Mark, that AA- rating does what to the bond then?
it lowers the interest rates, which then, because of the way the rates work, they're going to end up with actually a little bit more money available because they're going to be able to retire more, there'll be bigger savings, and therefore be able to fund more of the project that
Was
they're
it
working
around
on.
like $50,000?
About an additional 50,000. So it was 350 and estimated originally, it's going to be closer to 4.
Good news.
Okay. Thank you for that good news. I'm sure the taxpayers love to hear that, too. Okay, anything else from you, Mark?
No.
No? Okay, Brian?
Couple of things. The first from Jessica, what is Jessica's name?
Stutzman?
Stutzman, I'm sorry. Jessica James Stutzman. Proud to announce that Millcreek Township was awarded $250,000 from the PADEP Section 902 grant. Millcreek Township will use this funding to pay for a new self-propelled compost windrow turner in 2017. This piece of equipment will be used at the Millfair Compost and Recycling Center to aerate larger volumes of leaf waste more efficiently and in accordance with Act 101 of 1988. So I think that we have to sign the contract. So I would move that the township chairman and secretary be permitted to sign this contract with DEP.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
With the soon to be retirements of Gary Walters in the streets department, the head foreman in the streets department, the township supervisors, and our human resource director, Diane Lyons, along with our public works director, Gary Snyder, conducted a series of interviews, both within and outside the township. And it is the recommendation of both Diane and Gary that Sean Kern be appointed the new bureau chief in the streets department, and I would move approval of that appointment with a starting date of August 29th.
Okay, do I hear a second on that appointment?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I'll vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
And along the same lines, Bill Hitchcock is also retiring from the fleet maintenance. And again, several interviews were conducted both within and outside of the township. And it's the recommendation of Diane Lyons and of Gary Snyder that Joseph Yatzer be appointed the new bureau chief in fleet maintenance. Joe comes to Millcreek Township with over 30 years' experience as a mechanic and service manager, most recently working with Maya Brothers. He was also an adult instructor for the Erie County Technical School, teaching auto mechanics and the PA state inspection certification courses. He has a PA Class A CDL and a PA Class 7 inspection license. This offer is contingent upon the successful completion of our employment screening. Did we get word on that yet?
Yes, it's all clear.
Okay, and from what I understand, everything's good. So I would move that Joe Yatzer be the new bureau chief in fleet maintenance. I'm sorry, at a rate of $63,000 annually. I'll go back and hit on Sean. I forgot to mention that before we break up here. But I'll move approval of Joe Yatzer as the new fleet maintenance bureau chief.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
Back to Sean Kern, just 1 second. I was a little too quick there. Sean started as a laborer with Millcreek Township in April of 1993. He was promoted to a streets foreman in March of 2011 and currently leads the storm sewer crew, among other crews. He would be working at a wage of $67,488.03, including his longevity. So I would move approval of that. That appointment is with a 6-month performance and salary review.
Okay. Do I hear?
Well, I already made the
You already
motion,
made
and
the
we
motion.
already
Yeah, we
approved
already
it.
approved that.
Can I amend that motion and
Yeah,
add
we'll
that?
amend that to include that language in that. Thank you. Okay.
Well, I should also know that Mr. Yatzer has a 6-month performance review as well.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah. If you would note that on.
That would be
Cheryl.
standard with any promotions.
Okay. Anything else? Mr.
Let me see. Nope, that's it.
Okay. I have a couple here from the police department. Give me a second. This comes from Director of Police Mike Tesor. I've got 3 items here. First one is permission for Mobilecom of Meadville, Pennsylvania to perform radio repairs and updates to the MPD Communications Center and to the radio receiver currently housed at the Millcreek Mall. Total cost of the equipment and work to be performed is closely calculated at $8,501, which is less than the quote received from Eagle Radio Technologies. Radio communications over the past few months have been periodically problematic, and I can tell you, I can attest to that. I've been in a radio room where they've been having trouble with that, so I just wanted to add that to that. Thus, Mobilecom was employed for a complete diagnostic evaluation, and they have identified the problems. Mainly, this consists of ineffective or older equipment and transmission interruption or interference. With officer safety and emergency response time in mind, we consider this repair, which was pre-approved as part of the 2016 MPD budget request, it's very critical. It's attached a quote, I don't have it here with me on this copy, for our review. So I'm going to make that in form of a motion to approve that, that cost for the work to be done on a radio system, $8,501.
That's a motion?
That is a motion.
I'll
there.
second.
Okay. Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Another item comes from the police department again. Respectfully request the additional items to be added to our agenda for tonight. Item number 1 is relocation of the MPD Communication Center backup generator and a transfer switch from the Grandview Elementary School location to the Lancaster Road Water Tower location where the radio antenna and radio receiver have been installed. Lake City Power Systems LLC of Lake City, Pennsylvania will perform the task at a cost of $2,800. This item was pre-approved as part of the 2016 budget request, and a copy of the estimate is attached for the review. I don't have it on this, I have it, it's in my office there, I believe.
we
I'll make that
all
in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. And let's see here, permission for West Ridge Fire Department and Fire Police to conduct traffic control at First Alliance Church on Zimmerly Road on August the 6th from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Fire Police will direct and monitor the flow of motor vehicles entering and exiting the church parking lot for a car show at that location. If approved, the written request from Fire Chief Dan Ouellette is attached for our signature. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. That's a classic car show, I understand, on August the 6th, which is not this Saturday, but next Saturday. And finally, I have next Tuesday night, being August the 2nd, is National Night Out. This is going to be held at the Bell Valley Fire Department from 6 until 9 p.m. It's a community event for the entire family, featuring games, food, music, fun, fire trucks, ambulances, police, and many other agencies and business. The event is free, as I said. Something that's done nationwide, and I think this is the 32nd year throughout the United States it's been done. I think it's the second year here at the Bell Valley Fire Department. The following will be, of course, this year's event is hosted by the Bell Valley Fire Department with financial support by Smith's Provisions, Wegmans, the United Way of Erie County, and the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors, also known as the Millcreek taxpayers. We had donated $500 at our last meeting. The following will be represented at the event: Millcreek Police, Millcreek Fire Departments, Millcreek Paramedic Service, the Erie County Sheriff Mounted Posse will have a team there, and Erie County Search and Rescue Canines will have a display there also. So there will be games, dunking booths, and other activities for a fun night for all. So please attend if you can. It's a good chance to meet other people and see what happens in Millcreek Township and Emergency Services.
Smith's Hot Dog.
Smith's Hot Dogs, and they're very grateful for their help on that there. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a request from Diane Lyons, our Human Resource Manager. Diane will be developing a personal handbook for the township, but she will require some legal services in regards to reviewing the handbook to determine it's legally compliant, to determine whether ensure it doesn't conflict with our current bargaining agreements, and also other issues that that would be subject to bargaining. She has requested the approval of a contract amount not to exceed $2,500 for the Knox firm, specifically Attorney Rich Perhax, to assist her in this matter. She has indicated, she's spoken with the treasurer, that we do have funds available in our legal fees budget to accommodate this request. And I would make a motion that we approve an expenditure of not to exceed $2,500 to the Knox firm to assist our HR department developing the personnel handbook.
Okay, we hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, anything else you have there, John?
Not on the agenda, Chairman, but there is an issue outstanding. We had some discussions earlier in the year about coordinating with PennDOT and the Erie MPO and Summit Township to perform a traffic and land use study along Route 99. We did receive the scope of work proposal from the county. I believe we've all reviewed it. I would ask us to approve it this evening. However, I've reached out to the MPO recently to determine about the cost share. Essentially, the study is about $53,000. The proposal will be for the county, the state, us, and Summit to each pay a fourth of the cost. In my experience with the MPO, similar studies have been performed by the state at no cost to the municipalities. So I have requested the MPO to investigate that. So by our next meeting, we should have a final cost estimate. Hopefully that estimate will be zero for the study.
So we can have it on the agenda and approve it then?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your work on that, John. Thanks. Mr. Adair, anything?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Cheryl? Rick Morris, I think you have something added on the agenda?
Yes, I have one item.
Okay.
I'm requesting permission for Ann Sokol, Assistant Township Engineer, and I to attend the August 11th Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Workshop in Cranberry Township. The workshop is designed to help us understand what is necessary to complete the notice of intent and permit application that is due to DEP in September of 2017. The application will include a stormwater pollutant removal plan that will take time and resources. Overall, EPA is tightening things up, which makes it more difficult for the municipalities. The registration fee is $50 each, and we will need the use of a township vehicle to attend.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
I'll move approval.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McGrath, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, and I think that concludes communications. Item number 18, citizens to be heard. Do you have any citizens to be heard? If you would, please come forward.
Just tell me, I'm sure you will, if my question is inappropriate at a Millcreek meeting. My name is Christine Blackman again, and I really have a question for Mr. Adair, and this is a thorn in my side, as Brian knows and John Grow, and I'm not moving from my house because but I have a fence that literally is on my property, because at the time my house was built by the guy who started Westridge subdivision, and he added on to the house to the point where it literally, my fence, I can't get onto my property, and I'm not moving, I don't have the money to move, but it's come to the point where I have to do some work on that side of my property, and I have, the only way, because of this fence problem, because there's not enough room, and even with the new amendment, there's no room. Am I gonna have a problem legally? Do I have a right, before I ask him, just up front, I need to know, am I allowed to get onto my property? Can he stop me from my property? I have to go through his fence, because that fence is neck and neck to my property. Plus, he threatened me that if he couldn't
Just
connect
to add a little flavor to it, you're not asking a question about Millcreek's role or laws, and
It's
I
not
don't,
ordinance, so, okay.
well, the ordinance, the ordinance basically says you should put it on your own property and has height limitations, but I don't know the layout of the property at all. I think you ought to consult your own attorney, because the specific lay of the land's gonna have an awful lot to do with the proper answer. And I can't have that. I mean, I don't, just simply don't know. And well, I think everybody up here would say it's not right if somebody builds a fence on someone else's property.
It is right, though. No, it is his property. There's only, because of the way Millcreek started out, there was no laws, and he was the one who started it. I have 6 inches between his house and the fence.
It's the building that's too close to the
He's seen
property.
it. John's seen it.
I honestly, I don't think I could
Okay.
give you a fair, proper answer on which you could rely.
I just thought maybe Howard Lincoln had the same problem, and he was allowed, you know, people can't keep you from your property, and I'm just hopefully not anticipating that happening, but,
Right.
you know, okay,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Let
Mr.
me sign
Blackman.
this again.
Okay. No, it's okay there. Thank you. Anyone else, citizens to be heard? Sir, please come forward and state your name for the record and also sign your name on the paper there.
Yeah, my name is Bob Nielsen. I live at 3448 West 40th. That's just off of Concord. You go up Concord, across the Airtain, you go on Concord and right to the left. I was here last year when I think Mr. Grohl was the road supervisor for this side of the county or township. Simple question, when am I going to get storm sewers finished? In that project you started up there
Started
years ago?
43rd and we're working north.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
it's been a long time. And I can't, you know, I mean, I listen to the news, the meetings, you know. Sue Weber's down here talking about, my roads haven't been paved for 26 years. My road hasn't been paved for 60 years. You know, I've lived in this township since 1957. I can't get anything done. I asked for a simple answer and I can't get it. Last thing you told me, you were going to send a road supervisor up there. And that's all I heard.
Okay.
Common courtesy would say, you know, give me an answer. You started the project, you screwed it up at 41st Street, and then you drove away. And now, you know, I'm driving down looking at Aberdeen, Bradford, Lancaster, all getting, you know, remilled, paved, and there I am. I wish the 3 of you would come up, and I'll take you for a ride from Concord to Lancaster and see what it's like. My neighbor down the street, every time it rains, he's underwater.
If you want to give me a call tomorrow morning, if you want to call me tomorrow morning, we'll set up a time to meet up there.
You come up anytime you want.
All right.
I'm home. I'll be home all day tomorrow.
What was your address again?
3448 West 40th.
Got it.
You know, this project was started probably a long time ago.
More than 10 years, probably.
Yes, more than 10 years. Because when they built Grandview School, they paved Concord across 43rd because that was the way the buses were going to run. Now they run across 40th. I get all the cutoff traffic,
Right.
cut out, you know, missing the light in the morning. I can't get anything done. You know, my question is, why am I paying taxes for this? Last time I got tar and chip was probably
this isn't-
15 years ago.
Don't take offense to this, but the township is not responsible to upgrade your roads. When you bought your house, it had ditches and it was tar and chip. We are trying to upgrade roads. We used to have 60 miles of tar and chip roads, now we have about 35.
I understand that.
So we're trying to do as many as we can annually within our budget constraints. We started at 43rd, that was tar and chip, put the storm sewer in, paved it. Went to 42nd, did the same thing. Went to 41st, did the same thing. Did a couple of the side streets. I'm not sure which ones they were. Did a couple of the side streets. Concord, and we're trying to work our way north.
Yeah, but you did 41st 2 or 3 times because it wasn't done right.
That was a contractor. You're right.
Well,
That was a contractor that came in and
whatever.
screwed
We
it
have,
up. You're
I
right.
would take it we have people overseeing those contractors.
That's why you had to come back and do it. Do it again.
3 times, and then all of a sudden, work halts. I don't see you people there, you know. My driveway is, I had to buy stuff to put down between the road, and I had to take out the bottom portion of my driveway. I can't even get you to, you dump stuff down here. I asked for you to dump it in my driveway. I'll tamp it down myself. I can't even get that. That's all I ask.
I'll get a hold of the Public Works Director and we'll come up.
I'll be there.
All right. I'll be up.
If you want my phone number, I'll give you my phone number.
Well, give it to Rick so you don't do it on TV.
Okay.
814?
Well, that would have been on TV.
I don't care. Maybe you have a lot of people calling me from different houses. 814-440-3532.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Nielsen, thank you.
About to sign this?
Yeah, but if you would, please sign your name there so we have the name spelled correctly for our minutes. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Citizens to be heard.
Back to me.
Back to you.
Evan, I'm sure you would have liked to have ridden off into the sunset without any fanfare, but no such luck. This is Evan's last meeting as Township Solicitor, although he's going to be around for another month helping out the McDonald Group with the transition. Evan has been the Township Solicitor for 24 years. He began working for Millcreek Township August 19th, 1992, which means he's attended probably around 1,100 of these meetings and worked for about 9 different supervisors. Does that sound right, Evan? Some of those meetings have been quite interesting, as Evan can attest. One that I missed, but I wish I would have seen, the supervisors discussing a contribution towards the construction of Jerry Oot Park, where it turned into sort of a bidding war during the meeting. That was, I heard stories about that. The public discussions leading to the expansion and renovation of the municipal building. Also, I was part of that one. That was an interesting one also. The Great Flood of September 17th, 1996. Rick, you remember that?
Yep.
That was a Tuesday, and we were in a meeting when it started to rain, and,
That's right.
and we thought we were going to be building arcs. Also on a Tuesday, unfortunately, was 9/11, when we sat in this room and got word of our nation being attacked. The airport runway extension, also some interesting meetings. The discussions leading to the formation of the Millcreek Paramedic Service and the protests that followed, people coming into the room with signs and being very upset. The closing of the senior center and the protests that followed. The sale of the water system that nobody cared about. Evan's sage advice helped resolve many very involved issues. The Millcreek Mall sewer billing, the earned income tax dispute with the city, the remediation of the Harper dump, and the construction of the Millcreek Golf and Learning Center, the remediation of the Curry dump site, zoning ordinances, land development ordinances. In fact, lots of ordinances used by Erie County municipalities originated in Millcreek, penned by Evan. Evan's out-of-the-box thinking helped resolve several issues involving PennDOT, the relocation of Powell Avenue, sidewalks on 12th Street, storm sewers and state rights-of-way. That compromise, by the way, helped save the new Walmart project and became the template for similar problems throughout the state. His knowledge and experience with municipal law would be hard to match. His untiring dedication to Millcreek, and I don't just mean within these walls, but the Millcreek community, has been extraordinary.
MYA.
We will miss him and wish him and his wife Rebecca all the best. Congratulations, Evan, and we're going to miss you.
We will miss you, Evan. Thank you.
And with that, I'll move adjournment.
It is 8:20.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.